Hello and welcome back to the channel. In this video we're gonna be looking at the most disappointing Black Series figures in 2023. Now, right from the start I have to say that I don't really think that any of these figures are completely bad. There are some good things on each of them, but for the most part this is my list of the figures that have problems, some have few small issues and some are a huge disappointment. So first, let's start off with few figures that are not on this list, but they are here as an honorable mentions. First one is Return of the Jedi 40th Anniversary Darth Vader. That is an amazing figure, don't get me wrong, but it has the helmet issue where it's really difficult to connect the helmet parts on Vader's head, and that feature was one of the key things for this release, so it's disappointing that it turned out to be so annoying. Again, an amazing figure and you can put it on your shelf without a helmet, but if you want to connect the helmet pieces, that could be a bit challenging. My second honorable mention is the Holocom series in general. This is my list, so I'm saying this from my perspective obviously. I'm not a fan of this subline. At first it kind of looked cool and I was even thinking of getting at least Mando for my collection. I ended up not doing that because here in Europe Hasbro decided to charge us more for that Mando figure than for the rest of them. The other thing is that I hoped that these will turn out to be holograms and that Hasbro will give us characters like Vader or the Emperor, but these ended up being bounty pucks. And then finally when I saw the reviews, it turned out that these LED lights are not strong enough to light through the whole body of the figure. And so the lower part of the body lights up while the rest of the figure not so much. As I said, this is not for me, but if you guys like it, I'm really happy for you. Alright, now let's get into my top 10 most disappointing Black Series figures in 2023. At number 10 I have Magna Guard. I've got this figure at the least disappointing spot here because I think that it's a great figure. I was so hyped for this release, and after I messed around with the first one I went and get another one, so I really do like it. But the main downside of this figure are shoulder armor pieces that fall off even on a slightest touch. The legs could use a swivel articulation, that is true, but I feel like the shoulder pieces are the main issue here. Other than that, this is a great release and I love it. I had a lot of fun posing this guy for my posing video that is on the channel and you can check it out. At number 9 I have Return of the Jedi Chewbacca. He's on this list because this was a great opportunity for Hasbro to give us a retooled Wookiee body, but instead they decided to reuse the old one that has a really bad articulation. It's funny how they try to improve on their Vaders, Lukes and Mandos, but Chewie stays the same through all these 10 years of the line. The only thing that they change on each release is the head sculpt, and this time they decided to give us a one scene specific Chewbacca that has a chain around his neck. The problem is that Bush Leia should hold the chain and the chain is too short for her to do that. On top of that, the head is molded so that the chain fits around the neck, and so you can't have this Chewie without that chain piece. That's a disappointment and that is why I decided to put him on this list. At number 8 I have the Amazon exclusive carbonized TIE Fighter Pilot and Emperor's Royal Guard 2-pack. I won't be wasting too much time on this release. It's a carbonized subline that a lot of us hoped was gone, but somehow it returned. It's really hard to understand some of these decisions that Hasbro makes, like why are these two figures chosen for this carbonized set? Do we need a carbonized Royal Guard? I know that I don't. Wouldn't it make more sense to put C-3PO and Captain Phasma in this kind of carbonized 2-pack? But no, this is what they went with, and then on top of that they decided to sell this for an insane price. So because of all said reasons, this set is on this list. At number 7 is Gaming Greats Battle Damaged General Grievous. This figure is on this list for almost the same reasons as Chewbacca. Hasbro missed yet another opportunity to make a retooled Grievous for this line, and this is the third time they are releasing the same figure that is just too short and out of scale with the rest of the figures. It has bad articulation and it can barely stand on its feet. Bandai beat Hasbro in this game a long time ago with their model kit that that to this day stays the best 1/12 Grievous that you can have in your collection. I hope that it's just a matter of time when they will finally release their SH Figure Arts Grievous as well. But as far as the Black Series Gaming Grades one goes, Hasbro decided to re-release the same figure with a bit of weathering. They called it Battlefront 2 Battle Damage version, took away the cape from the first release, but decided to give it the same deluxe price. That is why this figure is on this list. At number 6, I have the HK-87 Assassin Droid. This is that droid from Ahsoka series and the figure that represented the first sign of Hasbro rushing out the figures from this show. It's one of the figures from this year that I'm actually regretting that I bought. It's a reuse of the same droid that we first saw in The Mandalorian, but unlike that one, this one has a real paint issue. The visor is not painted. Well, I should say that there is no paint at all on this figure. Even the red plastic in which it's molded is a wrong tone of red. It should be much darker and weathered. We are also missing the main accessory, the spear that this character used in the show. Instead of that, they gave us only a blaster rifle, while TVC version got both weapons, so it's not like Hasbro didn't know. The figure looks like a prototype, like an unfinished product, and if it wasn't for the next few figures on this list that are named characters and have a much more important role in the shows, for me this would probably be the worst figure of the year. But now we have a top 5 of the most disappointing figures to talk about. At number 5, I have Merrick. The main reason why this figure is on this list is, of course, the paint. As soon as we saw the promo shot for this guy, we were disappointed. They completely missed the look from the show. The gray tone of the armor is just not right, it's too light and it should be much darker. The other issue is that orange paint that is splattered all across the body. At first we thought that it should represent a rust effect, but they splattered that same paint across his sleeves and pants as well, so who the hell knows what that orange paint should be. It's a shame because other than the paint issue, this figure is actually really good. The sculpt and the articulation are great, the figure is so much fun to pose, he has a nice soft goods cape, and they even gave him a ball jointed wrists. It's an amazing figure that was unfortunately ruined with an awful paint job. And I said many times before, I'm not a fan of having to customize a figure that I paid for as a finished product just to make it look right. At number 4, I have Pre Vizsla. This is a character that a lot of us wanted to see in this line for a long time, and when he was finally revealed and we saw the promo shots, we were first excited, and after like a half of a second, that excitement fell off the roof. For some reason, Hasbro decided to reuse the old Jango Fett body for this guy. That is such a huge disappointment. That old body should have been retired by now. It's so outdated, the proportions are not good, and the articulation is really limited. What makes it even worse is the fact that last year Hasbro made a newly sculpted Mandalorian body that we first saw on Death Watch Mandalorian figure. That is the body we wanted to see them use for all the new Mando releases. But for some reason, for Pre Vizsla, they decided to go back to that Jango one. Was it because they wanted this guy to be in line with previously released Commando and Moldalorian that are also on that same body? I don't know. If that's the reason, I really don't know what to say. Would collectors really get angry if they released Vizsla on the new body? I'm guessing that Hasbro just wanted to get some more money out of the old mold, and it's a shame that it kind of ruined the figure that could have been amazing. And number 3, I have Morgan Elsbeth. This figure also could have easily been the number 1 disappointment of the year, but we all know what's coming on the next 2 spots. I mean, it's not like the Black Series line is known for the insane amount of accessories, but this figure, she came with nothing. Not even a spear from the Mandalorian show. And of course, her price was the same as all the other figures. I'm also not a fan of plastic skirts because they get in the way of leg articulation, and same thing happened here. Maybe it's just me, I prefer soft good skirts and capes on these figures. But if this figure only came with some kind of accessory, for me it wouldn't be as bad as it is. I love the head sculpt, they really did a great job on that one. It's maybe one of the best head sculpts in the line. Other than that, I'm not a fan of this release. At number 2, I have Shin Hati, one of the most desirable characters that we wanted in figure form this year. We were so hyped about this release, and even though we were not so sure of her likeness when we saw those promo images, the real disappointment came with the first first YouTube reviews that shocked us with the wrong height of this figure. Shin turned out to be too tall when compared to the rest of the figures. The likeness to the actress is not there, at least that's how I feel, and the hair desperately needs a bit of wash. But the body sculpt looks good and the articulation is great. This figure would get a pass if only the height was right, and it's especially wrong when she stands next to Balan's skull. So with that, we are getting to the most disappointing figure of the year for me, and that is, of course, Balan's skull. Balan and Shin come together. They were in the show together as master and an apprentice, the figures were revealed together, and they were released together. You could practically say that they shared the first place for the most disappointing Black Series figures of the year. But I've put Balan at first place because I'm sure that, like me, a lot of you guys really wanted this character in your collection, especially after such a great performance and the fact that the actor unfortunately passed away. When the figure was first revealed, it looked good, but Hasbro fooled us by not showing the two side by side, even though they had both figures in hand for that stream. So they knew that the scale will be an issue and they went with it anyway. And so we ended up with a Balan figure that is just too short and too small. In real life and in the show, the actor is a lot taller than Shin and then the rest of the characters, but in a figure form he turned out to be so small that it's laughable. And then when you think back how Hasbro team emphasized so much how they gave him a long lightsaber blade, practically as long as the one that Melgus has, that kind of turns this whole thing into a parody. Memes were coming out. People were shocked how could something like this happen when you can get a height information by a simple Google search, and Hasbro still got it wrong. It's just such a shame and such a huge disappointment. Do I wish for Hasbro to fix this, to retool the body and give us an accurate version? Yeah, I do. I'm fine with upgrades, you know, I'm fine with making the figure better than the previous one, but that still means that the previous one, the first one released, has to be good at the time when it's released, you know. For example, I was satisfied with previous Clone Troopers, but the new one is even better. And I also know about the Landspeeder Luke's fix with Reva's legs. I mean, props to Landspeeder Luke, but I don't like that fix, and here is why. If I was to do that, I need to buy another Reva figure. At this point, my only option for that is eBay. I'm not in the US, so I don't have all those Ollie's and Ross stores, so I would have to pay at least a full price to get another Reva. So I gave 30 euros for Balan and then 30 more euros for another Reva, and that's like 60 euros in total. For what? Just to make a shitty figure a bit less shitty. The only case in which I will pay 60 euros for a Balan figure is if someday by any chance Bandai or Mafex makes one. So there you go. This was my top 10 list of the most disappointing Black Series figures in 2023. I am aware that I'm talking here about problems with toys, while there are a lot of far bigger problems in the world. But you should also know that this is a hobby for which we do pay with our real money, and if you are a collector, you probably understand. I also know that I finished off the list with a longer rant, but when you look back at the year, it's really not that bad. In fact, I would say that it's not bad at all. Hasbro gave us a lot of amazing figures this year, and I'm thankful for that. Most of the time they do a great job, and I hope that they will continue to do that. Anyway, now I would love to hear you guys. What do you think about my list? How would you rank these figures? Was I too harsh on these releases? Did I miss something? What is your most disappointing figure of the year, Black Series or some other one? Let me know all of that down in the comments. Stay tuned for my top 10 best Black Series figures in 2023. That one should be in the next episode. Special thank you goes out to my supporters on Patreon, and to the rest of you guys, of course. Thank you all for watching and supporting the channel in that way. Thank you all for being here with me, and I'll see ya in the next video.